Welcome to Diverse Orange, our conversations about diversity here in Central Florida. My guest today is Mandi Jo John. Welcome, Mandy.
Hi.
Sorry,
How are
Mandy Jo,
you?
correct? Not Mandy.
Mandi Jo, yes.
Sorry about that. Well,
That's
how are you
okay.
doing?
I'm good. I'm in transit. It is Little Mermaid Day, so I have my little in the car, and we're about to go see Little Mermaid and have a great time. But definitely excited to spend a few minutes with you this morning, Terry.
Great. Well, our conversation about diversity seems appropriate since you have an organization called Black Theater Girl Magic. Did I get that right?
Yes.
And so obviously delving into issues related to being Black in the theater.
Yes,
Tell us about
correct.
that.
Well, Black Theater Girl Magic is an organization that stemmed from a need for community. There was a longstanding kind of idea that diversity was like a box that was being checked, which ended up having one Black or brown person in every production, right? On Broadway, there was always one, right? And it felt very isolating for a lot of us to be the only performer in our immediate sphere who was a person of color. So BTGM started as a networking opportunity for those women of color to share experiences, to network, to empower each other. And the advocacy kind of grew from there. We're a member group that's over 2,000 members strong across the country, made up of creators of all performance elements, trying to eliminate barriers of entry into professional performing arts and performing arts in general.
And how does that relate to Central Florida?
Well, Central Florida is actually one of the most diverse talent pools in the country. It's definitely one of the strongest talent pools in the country in terms of Black and brown talent. And it's remarkably underserved considering how many Black and brown people live and work here and make art here. So it was a natural place for us to be. Most of our founding members are Central Florida working actors. So having a long-standing relationship with Orlando is something that a wide majority of my membership is familiar with. So this is kind of our home base, but we are a national organization.
And did you grow up in Central Florida?
I was actually born in Central Florida. I was a musician kid. I was raised by musicians, so we traveled all over the world and the country mostly. But I am from Central Florida, graduated of the University of Central Florida. I was actually Miss Orlando 2000 and very long time ago. So to say that Orlando has a special place in my heart is an understatement.
Well, have you seen, so you've seen Central Florida over a number of years and you've been involved with the arts. Have you seen growth or change in the arts community in relationship to diversity?
What I think I've seen, which is the most encouraging thing, is the change in the conversation, right? It's not just, the conversation used to be, do we have Black and brown people on the stage? And that's an easy thing to do, right? To hire a person for a production and put their face on a poster and say, hey, look, we've got diversity. But it's another thing to say, now the conversations are we including voices of color? Are including directors and board members and producers and designers and stage management? Are there people of color at every point in the decision-making elements of an artistic production that will help make this more inclusive? Because I mean, from the corporate world to the artistic world, we've seen in our DEI work that in corporate settings, what we refer to as snow-capped organizations have lower rates of overall employee happiness and retention and profitability. But when you really make an effort to be inclusive at every chain of the hierarchy, and you share that power and you share and redistribute that that ownership of these productions and these organizations, your workforce is happier, your workforce is more productive, your productions are more profitable. And I think that we're starting to have the conversations now that are going to move us forward, as opposed to conversations that kind of have us spinning our wheels in terms of who we're including, because the conversation was really just being had between the privileged few in the institutions. And now we're having that conversation with everyone in Central Florida who wants to be a part of it. So that's a much better place to be than before.
And the growth of that conversation, have you found resistance to that, either actual or inertia like, or has it been a pretty easy flow of mostly just educating?
I would say that if there is anything, it's inertia, not because of people's resistance to change, but because it's not a simple solution, right?
And
It's not
we all have a natural resistance to change.
right,
So.
exactly. And the thing is, it took us hundreds of years to get to where we needed to get, where we finally said enough, we need to fix this. It's going to take us possibly just as many years to feel like we've actually reached our true goals. And that's me being an optimist. But I think that it's not a matter of saying I want places to be fair and inclusive and for people to feel safe. It's very difficult to look at what that actually means for your organization and what your organization might have to entirely dismantle and rebuild in order to make that the case. And I think a lot of people look out at that horizon and they see the amount of work and they get daunted because it is a lot. Dismantling white supremacy, when it's literally the foundation upon which most of society is built, is how do you rebuild a foundation with the house still standing? You don't. You kind of have to tear the house down. So it's not an easy place to be, especially if you've been sitting in an institution for a very long time and you feel like you've been doing a lot of good. I don't want to negate anyone's work that they've done so far, but the fact remains we still have so much further to go, and we cannot rest on any laurels at this point.
Yeah. Well,
and Willow agrees.
Yes. Well, first of all, a thought that came to my head, just toss it out. My uncle's a carpenter, and I have seen him rebuild a foundation under a house. So the metaphor, just let you know, it can happen in the carpentry world. I don't doubt that. And I think that there are a lot of organizations who are really trying to make that work and doing good work in the process. But I will say that the metaphor being what it is, it also requires a lot of care, a lot of forethought, a lot of knowledge, subject matter experts, right? That's not a project that just anybody can do. That's something that you trust to a master carpenter. Am I assuming correctly? Correct.
So I think that
collapse.
So it's not something that just anybody could do. It's possible, but it takes subject matter experts. It takes a lot of thought. It takes a lot of work. So yes, I agree with you. My metaphor may have been incomplete in that sense, but if we take it a little further down the path, I mean, it takes a master carpenter to do something like that.
And there's always dangers of digging into metaphors too much.
Exactly. Listen, this is the stuff that I live for as an actor and a director. I have to dig into the metaphors. So,
all right. Well, tell me, what's a immediate thing that your organization is working on right now?
Well, right now we're working on our celebrations for Juneteenth. It's our third year of having it as a national holiday, and I want to see Orlando celebrating it with the arts. This is our third year. We've had really a lot of success in the last few years of bringing the community together of all ages, all races, to just come together and celebrate what Juneteenth and emancipation really means, not just for African descendants of slavery, but for everyone who lives in a country where the country was built on enslaved people. So and just how joyful it is to know that we could overcome something as monumental as that, and it shows where we take it further. If we could dismantle 300 years of slavery, we can do so much more if we continue to push, right?
And I think
but as far as, sorry,
I was going to say, and I think a key about that in Juneteenth is about communication and how the world can be changing and people not know it, but we need to get the word out so that everybody knows and can enjoy the world as we see it in a much broader, more inclusive, happy world. Well, Mandi Jo,
it occurred to me. Sorry, just this one. It occurred to me that, as a child, when you wake up on the 4th of July, it feels different. It's the 4th of July, right? And our events, our Juneteenth events, which you can find out more about at juneteenthorlando.org. Our goal is to instill that feeling in kids, in adults, but just to start creating that joy and celebration and specialness of that holiday. You wake up on Juneteenth and it's Juneteenth, right? So that's the goal of these events, and we really just hope to invite our entire arts community to join us. We've got space for every discipline, from children's theater all the way to spoken word to African dance. We were doing all of it. There's room for everyone. There's something for everyone to enjoy, and we hope you join us.
Thank you, and thank you for talking with me today, Mandi Jo. And also
thank you so much
to all of you watching this issue of Diverse Orange. Happy Juneteenth.